Is your child guessing when they read? Let's talk about why this happens and 3 simple ways you can help. I'm Alyssa. I'm a certified reading specialist and dyslexia practitioner. I help parents build strong, confident readers. And if your child is guessing, it's fixable. First, let me say, guessing is not a behavior problem. It is a reading skill problem. It is very common. Before we talk about how to stop guessing, let's take a look at what guessing looks like. Guessing might look like looking at the first letter of a word and saying what makes sense. If we have the text that says Tim has a ball, the child might look at that and say Tim has a book. Well, book and ball both start with B, but that's not what the text says. The text doesn't say Tim has a book. So using that first letter and guessing what makes sense is not an effective reading strategy. And we want students to use the text and not guessing. Another way we might see guessing is when a child uses the picture as a clue to read. So for example, the text is Tim has a balloon. Well, we can see Tim does have a balloon in that wonderful picture. So the child reads that Tim has a balloon, but we know that I bet if we took that picture away, that child would not be able to read the word. And even after several repetitions, if you had that word balloon in isolation, do you think that child could read the word balloon? We want to teach students to read using the text on the page while pictures have their place. Unfortunately, we can help students get into the habit of guessing, and we don't want them to guess and rely on those pictures. We want them to start relying on the text. Sometimes students can replace a word with a similar word. For example, in this text it says, the dog ran. But the child reads, the pup ran. Well, dog and pup are very similar. That's not what the text says. The text says dog. So we want students to rely on the text to read words and not replace those words with something similar. So as you can see, guessing is a strategy. It is the wrong strategy. And as you see, I have my pup who has decided to join me when I'm talking about pups. So meet Ruby. Why children guess? Reason number 1. The sounds are not automatic. If the letter sound knowledge is not solid and quick, and sounding out feels slow and hard, guessing is faster. So automatically students want to guess. They're spending so much time trying to make those letter sound connections. It's just easier to guess. Reason number 2, they've been taught to rely on pictures and meaning. They've been taught, look at the picture. Does it sound right? When we teach students to rely on pictures, we're really teaching them to predict instead of decode. We need to be looking at the text and what's on the page, text-wise, not picture-wise. And early on, it can seem like a harmless thing to do to look at the pictures. And there's some really fun stories that you can read looking at the pictures. But when you're trying to teach children to decode, you really must focus on the text and the letters on the page. We don't want to get students in the habit of guessing because they're looking at the pictures. Reason number 3, reading is overwhelming. If blending the sounds is hard, then the brain looks for relief. Guessing becomes a coping strategy. It's not laziness, it is compensation. And if you'll notice, in all of these reasons why students guess, the students are searching for meaning. The key is when they read the words on the page and the text, they are going to get that meaning and an understanding. And that's what we want to move towards. Let's talk about what helps guessing fade. Strategy number 1, decodable books. Decodable books are books that have words in them where the sounds and skills match what the children have been taught. Let's look at an example of decodable text. In this example, Sam the pup, students have already learned their consonants and vowels and are able to practice the consonant-vowel-consonant pattern, which is the closed syllable pattern. There are no surprises. Students are able to practice what they know, what they've already learned. That's the beauty of decodable text. Strategy number 2, cover the pictures. It may seem awkward at first, but take 2 sticky notes or 1 sticky note, however many you need, and let that text be the star. So students can focus on the text and use the text to decode rather than leaning on the picture. Strategy number 3, have the students actually focus on the letters and the sounds that they make. So, for example, a student is reading this sentence, Sam got in the mud. The students get stuck on the word mud. As a parent, you would say, let's look at that word. Would you say the letters? The student would say M-U-D, and then say, let's say the sounds those letters make. M-U-D. Let's blend them together. Mud, mud. Yes, Sam got in the mud. And notice I'm tracking the print as well. I'm putting my finger under each word, having the students focusing on that text. And you would be surprised at how effective it is to say to the students, look at all the letters in the word, read through all the letters. So students need to look at what the letters are, the sounds, and blend them together. It's very effective. What not to say? Try not to say, oh, just guess. Just guess. Look at the picture. Look at that picture. You know it. I know you know this. It's so tempting to do. You can get frustrated listening, but stretch that patience and use the strategies, changing your language, saying, let's look at the letters of that word. Check those letters out. Look at the sounds. What sounds do those letters make? Let's read all the way through the word, and then we'll blend it. And if you need to, model for them what to do. These small changes in language will make all the difference. If your child is guessing, that's a sign that they need more structure and not more pressure. With the right kind of practice, guessing will fade and real reading will take over. I've created a simple bookmark you can download below. It tells what not to say and what to say instead. Reading struggles have reasons, and sometimes parents are very surprised because very smart students will still guess. And there's a reason that happens, and we'll talk about that in our next video. But for now, know that there are reading struggles, but there is a clear path forward. I'm so glad you're here.